Hey people, this is Matthew, and I have got a little bit of New World disorder here. I was actually applying these abusive red flags not to your partner, or well, mainly to yourself, but to your political party. And I've noticed that a lot of these little tactics and things, the characteristics of a battered woman, kind of match what a member of a political party acts like from time to time. They always say, oh, we'll do better. They're charming, they're sweet, they manipulate you and control you, but they're inconsistent and they're disconnected from you. They don't understand. And then you started looking at some of these other factors, and I realized, yeah, I kind of see the correlation, but there's a better one, and it's cults. Now, the group displays excessively zealous and unquestioned commitment. If you doubt or dissent, you may be discouraged or even punished. Meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, strange dictates. The group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself, its leaders, and its members. It's polarized. It's us versus them. And of course, conflict, conflict, conflict. That's all they're about. You go further into it, the leader's not accountable to any authorities, not like you would be or me. The group teaches or implies that it supposedly exalted ends justify whatever means it deems necessary. The leadership induces feelings of shame or guilt in order to influence and control members, done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Now, if you're a member of one of these political cults, you just want to belong. Your unassertiveness is there. You're a bit gullible, possibly. A low tolerance for ambiguity. You need absolute answers, and you're impatient to get the right answer. Cultural disillusionment. You're idealistic, but you're not stupid. I mean, look over all those things again. Nothing there says you're stupid. It's a myth. Yeah, you're going to be a little weird. You're going to be a little odd. You're probably actually smarter than other people, but hey, I want to talk to you a little face to face here. I got into this idea because, in large part, I've been looking at the political parties for years now, and here's what I have actually been seeing. What I have really been seeing over the past several years had reminded me of when I lived across the street from a women's shelter. No one's supposed to know what's a women's shelter, by the way. I'm not going to tell you where I lived at the time. But here's what would happen. I would be sitting there on the porch or looking, or more often than not, I would hear it from across the street because they get loud. And, there was the one house that always had the blinds down and only women were coming and going and, things like that. And believe me, they needed these places in the area in which I was living at the time. But nothing wrong with women's shelters, total necessity, but unfortunately what would happen is there was a certain percentage of the women who were not ready to leave their abuser. And they would do the unallowed, the unthinkable, the taboo, which is call up the ex and tell them where the shelter is, meaning they could no longer use the shelter and were barred from it. Not out of meanness, but because the ex would know to go there. As a matter of fact, they didn't want this because obviously it was going to draw in men when their women left them for real that time. So they tried to discourage that as much as they could, but it still happened. And here is how it looked. The guy would pull up, actually very frequently now that I'm thinking about it, usually a nicer car, more traditional. I mean, it's a sedan usually, frequently four-door, though there were some real shit boxes and things that look like they rolled out of Joe Dirt's, just favorite dream of what a Trans Am should be. But the scene was always the same. The guy would get out of the car, honk the horn a few times. Honey, I'm here for you. I love you so much. And the woman's like, I can't live without you. And she'd run across the lawn with a couple of bags, hop in the car, and zoop, off they go. And looking back on that kind of reminded me of where a lot of African Americans are today. The politicians have promised them the world, yet during my lifetime, their position seems no better, and in many cases, worse when it comes to poverty. There are many who have made their way, which is great. The doors are open, but a lot of the politics in the areas where it's, tightly controlled don't seem to be benefiting a lot of the people. Now, in truth, this is true of any poverty. I don't believe there is a race to poverty. And anyone who is in an impoverished position is looking now. When I was a kid, it was embarrassing to use food stamps. Now about 50% of everyone has to. When I was a kid, it was weird if your family was on the government health. Now everybody has to. Our politicians are slapping us around and using us like they're bitches, and I thought, that is the perfect way to describe our government. But I realized it was not the perfect way to describe our political parties. I didn't even come up with it. I was talking with someone else who usually doesn't want to be disclosed in my videos, so I will leave their name out of it. But as I was talking to them, he said, they sound like a cult. And I thought about it. I'm like, holy crap, that is the best freaking analogy. Because the things I've been seeing lately, people chanting. I mean, we're not talking just like Shia LaBeouf standing on a street corner, but they're all like, duh, 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 duh. And they all have their, weird cultish behaviors and their weird cult rallies. And their leaders can do no wrong. And I have been seeing this so much. Whether we're talking Russian bot or NPC, either side, right or left. I'm trying to get this arranged for you. Okay. This would be your right, my left. This is my left, your right. Yeah. Anyway, I am now confused, but the right and the left both have this undercurrent of people who, no matter what Trump says, he has either fucked up more than any president in the history of the United States of America, or he is a glistening orange beacon of freedom and every American should worship him. Why are you so fucking stupid as to not worship him? And the reality is, I'm thinking, he is the most polarizing individual I have ever seen in regards to being so generically average. He does everything on a grand scale, but if you look at it, it's like he cheated on his wife, and then he cheated on the next wife who he cheated with on the first, then he cheated on the next one. So he's a systematic wuss about ending a relationship. I've seen these before. Big deal. Who cares? He was a businessman whose father was rich, and it made him richer. And the Democrats are like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Oh, he's cheated everybody. And they're freaking out and shitting their pants like, oh my God, he is such a con man. And the Republicans on the other end are the complete opposite about it. And they're like, he is the Messiah returned. He is such a self-made man. He pulled himself out of a cardboard box where he was left as a baby in the gutter and made $1 million and then billions. The reality is in between there. And everybody knows it. That's why it was such a shitty election in 2016. Why 2018 is pretty much a crap, normal, regular, run-of-the-mill midterm election during any presidency, almost always the possessing party loses seats, especially when they started possessing with so much. And then go to beyond that. I mean, even further beyond that. We're looking at 2020 already. And it looks like the same shit show again. So here is what I think you need to do. Drop out of your fucking cult. Leave that abusive abusive partner that you have of a government and go in and take control of your own fucking life. If you see what's going on, run as independent, vote independent, and we need to come up with a platform for independence. Because right now, both parties are playing both ends of the field. They're trying to say, oh, we're not the big government, or we're not the big corporation, when in reality, both of them are big government, big corporation. What we need is someone, and not just someone, but many ones, to return the power back to us. Now you're thinking, oh, well, we could get to a third party. A third party would be the bomb. Like, we could get the Green Party and smoke a bunch of dope and everything would be cool. Well, right now, with everyone smoking marijuana, the Green Party's, and I'm talking of like a dozen states or whatever, the Green Party's legislative days are going to be over soon. They were a one-hit wonder, so basically they were kind of Democrat Party heavy. And the Libertarians are like, well, you know, we believe that we can all have our freedom to do things. Well, basically they want to turn everything over to free enterprise, a little bit more laissez-faire. What we really need is someone who is, okay, we need to throttle back big government, and we need to throttle back big business, because they are turning into one and the same. We are at a point now where there are 500,000 media outlets all controlled by like 5 companies. I mean, think about it. Look at NBC. There's MSNBC. Look at Microsoft News. All wildly leaning to the left. In your case, left. Having a problem doing my stage directions. You're left. Anyway. And then we've got Fox. And I don't know what all Fox controls. Fox doesn't seem to have the same big media thing going. And it's a little to the right. And then you look at all the computer companies and all the oligarchy that's going on. And the funny thing is, the word oligarchy I hear almost more often than the left. Even though they have as many oligarchies, if not more, controlling their party than the right does. But we need to have it to where we have people who are independent of these things running the political show. People who, say for instance, if they went into Congress and got $100,000 a year, that was probably their best flippin' paying job ever. Think about that. Think about the money involved. At the very least, you know, here's people spending millions of dollars to get a job that's only $100,000, $135,000, maybe $200,000. Even if they work 100 years in that job, they will never make back the money they had for, like, say, 2 elections, maybe 3 elections. I mean, the proportion is stupidly outbalanced, and that's because there are enormous sums of money involved on this. And in all honesty, you might as well step up to the plate and get your fingers into that pie too. Go up. Get the great government benefits. Everyone's like, well, you know, these senators get these great benefits that no one else gets. Well, fuck it. Get them. They're there for you. Just consider it like your help wanted page. It's not too hard. Maybe we'll even start coming up with links. But the first thing we'll have to do is come up with our own little platform. And with that, I'll let you guys think of some ideas. Write into the comment section what you think a political party should have in its platform this day and age. Thanks for watching, friends.